Hey TSG, this is Ben. Today we're going to talk about the Kurtzhau for real. Last week I told you I was, and I lied to you. So we're going to talk about the Kurtzhau today, and particularly the context that I think that we use it in, and then some of the stuff you can do with it. So the Kurtzhau is a short strike, and in the text we're told that anytime you cross the arms, or strike short, or use a short edge, you are doing a short strike, which means the extent and the reach of your blade is shortened in some way. So that means if I'm in here, if I'm cutting into, for whatever reason, like a Kurtzhau into a right ox, that's a shortened cut. I'm not at full extension, at full reach. So there's things you would do against somebody who's doing that. But also you can cut short for a variety of reasons. To create a feint, to attack somebody else, or what we do with the Kurtzhau. So this is TSG's take on how we do the Kurtzhau and why we do the Kurtzhau. So one of the applications you can do with the Krump when you're doing Krump versus ox is the version I showed a couple videos ago was a sweep to the hand. So I'm starting somewhere out like here, they go into a left ox, and I'm crumping against those hands to sweep the hands from below or over the hand, as the case may be. Another potential interpretation of this is that you're actually cutting across their blade to their center line. So it's over the hand, not at the hand. You're cutting over the hand across their blade down to their center line to create a center line thread with it. This works really well. In some cases, that kind of depends on the person. I found it requires a lot of offline motion. It's harder for him to track and keep longer distance if I'm moving to the outside of his ox. Moving the inside of his ox, he can just follow me with the tip, but moving the outside of his ox, he loses some distance reach with it on that side. Counterintuitive sometimes for that. So we're doing some offline movement like we do. We're cutting across the blade, cutting down across the blade toward the face to create that face threat. And then now that we've kind of won that center line by repositioning my center line, right? Then I can force him to work off that bind. So I'm not going to get into all the reasons why I think that doesn't always work 100% well. We can talk about that later, I think, in class. But I'd use it still. It works under certain circumstances. Particularly against somebody who's not actively changing guards a lot. If they're moving out of this and they see it coming and they're cutting that, and they try to cut at the same time or do something else, sometimes it goes wonky. But let's assume that for some reason that they're up there, they're in that guard, they're kind of being resolute and just defending in that guard, then it works pretty well to kind of start and create that threat, take that center line and then work off of it. Particularly if we're doing Krump to that blade, counter winding over their ox to thrust down with the short edge, or to cut down with the short edge, or cut the hand with the short edge. So let's is going to work through that play really quickly first. So if I'm thinking about an ox and I'm here and I want to take that ox, I'm going to do my leap with a simple Krump out, imagining that I'm cutting down their center line with it. Here, nothing too complicated yet, very basic. And my follow-up I'm going to do is counterwind against them. So I'm assuming in this case that they're not leaving that bind, that they're playing defense, trying to keep that center line with them. So here, I'm going to wind into my other ox, the open ox, and this will create a bind where I'm actually over their blade, thrusting down toward their center line. So it ends up being there. Again, a good leap out. I like a little triangle step with my back foot to bring that blade in. Also allows me to finish that thrust if I want to, so I go boom, triangle step here. I'm chambering up my back foot, moving into the thrust with my forward foot. So there. Ends up being thrust. Alright, so that's the progression. Now the Kurtzhau makes way more sense. This is why this actually might be the real version. The Kurtzhau makes a lot of sense against this action. So let's say that I'm doing that. I'm going to cut against the blade across the center line. What they're likely to do with that is to defend in some way. That tip is coming over my head this way. The easiest thing for them to do to defend is to do this. Raise their blade a little bit, push against that cut a little bit, keep the offline, keep me out of that line, and they can make it happen pretty easily. So let's assume that they do that. Let's assume that I'm here, somebody cuts across me at this angle, and I push up this way. So one of the ways, so again, in the Zornhau text, we're taught a very basic principle. And that principle is, if he goes high, you go low. So when he sees the thrust, you go low. And so this is an application of that. If he is here up high and we're trying to cut over, create that center line, and he goes high and pushes a little high with it, just like that Einhorn position, a little bit, and then I'm going to go low with it. So I can do this actually from the bind, though it seems to be implied that in the Kurtzhau you're doing it, you're striking short and going under because you know he's going to defend, right? Because maybe you're working the Fechtens, you're playing with him, you're trying to find an opening, you're trying to work in with him, and he is defend, kind of creating some thrust, but defend. He's working just defense from this position, right? And this is the context where this works more effectively than not. So what I'm going to do is, I know that's going to happen. I've already played with him enough in the Fechtens to figure out what's happening, and now I'm going to do is apply the Kurtzhau. So I'm going to do is I'm going to make like I'm doing that cut against his blade, right? Hoping that I can get him to kind of push a defense against it. But instead, I'm going to shoot that tip underneath his blade, come up from below on it, and create that center line thrust. Same center line thrust, but from below instead of above, if that makes sense. So the way I'm doing that with my hands, the sun has now come out and it's right in my face, is I'm going to be, instead of my Krump position here, which is a long edge action, I'm going to be short edge instead. So here's my Krump. Here's how I do my Krump. So I'm cutting here and I'm in my thumb grip-ish. Arms extended, Krump action. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do is punch with my underhand, punch up, an uppercut underneath, punch up. And as I do that, I'm turning this hand, keeping contact, keeping solid contact and grip with this hand, and I'm punching up. And then you'll see that turns my long edge into a short edge as I do that. Punching up here. You'll notice it drops my tip. My tip sinks. Right, not to be in the sun. The tip sinks down a little bit. And that allows me to just sink that tip in a way that's really effective. So, as I'm cutting, I cut here, pumped up, as I continue that wind around to drop under, and then it just takes me rising that tip again to come back underneath on that center line, my ox. So it ends up being here, sink, and up. And then I finish with a left. So I'm doing this with my right. I'm stepping with the right as if I'm doing a Krump, and then sinking that Kurtz. And now I'm in this position that is awkward but chambered to release that kind of potential energy. And I'm going to step with my left foot to finish it. So it ends up being boom, underneath, step. So the nice thing about this, you can do it against a cut at your head too. When you're cutting in, instead of the ox, you can, like you're cutting against it with a Krump, and slip underneath that as well instead. The nice thing about this is that it parallels the taking of the center line with that cross cut that you get for the Kurtzhau. One of them, the standard Krump, is coming across their blade from above. The other, the Kurtzhau, is coming underneath the blade to that center line. All right, that's it. Thanks, TSG.